Hey, welcome. This was my level 4 Mourning Ikes clear, and it was a real pain in the ass. This boss is so bugged, it's actually insanely difficult for no real reason. I'm doing solo JIYAN, he's my highest DPS, and I thought it'd be fun to try and do a solo rather than rely on other characters. The boss gets a bunch of new moves, becomes a lot more aggressive on difficulty 4, and most of all becomes really tanky. So it was really hard to actually get the DPS check. It's really important to actually be able to parry moves like that, but you'll notice, look, I just lost a bunch of health. I didn't get hit, but this boss has a bug where if you parry it, and then you walk too close to its head within a certain period of time, you will just take damage for no reason. I really hope that they fix that. This move right here is an insanely dangerous new move it gets. I just decided to ult or the iframes, otherwise you kind of have to rely on doing a few really fast spot dodges in place or you're going to instantly die. One of the other really difficult things with this boss is sometimes it'll just go into phases where it'll fly around a lot, and that makes you lose a lot of time. So some of my runs, I would be doing a decent amount of damage, and then it would just start flying a ton and doing constant strings of attacks, and I wouldn't have enough time to actually be able to get my DPS window in, which made this really difficult. But this run, fortunately, the boss was staying a little bit more on the ground and it wasn't bugging out too hard. One really big issue that I found is I had to be really careful about using the monkey. You have to use it at really specific points, otherwise the boss will recover in time and be able to hit you with a quick attack. Another thing is JIYAN's ult is really bad on this boss, making him a terrible character to actually use here. Why? Well, his ult for some reason has a terrible bug where it kind of locks the camera in place. So sometimes if you use it, it just won't really track the boss and they'll just go off screen and you won't be able to really see their next attack, which is a really big problem. Also, this boss flies around a lot, and since his ult is essentially an install ultimate that makes him do a lot more damage with his basic attacks, it's not really all that amazing against a boss that's constantly flying around and doing crazy things like that. Much better just to have burst damage. So in this boss, we're just kind of trying to barely survive right here. We have almost no health left. Gotta dodge those kunais. That's the most dangerous move that they add. You'll probably die a lot to it when you're trying to do this boss for the first time, because it feels like it has no rhyme or reason. It feels sort of like trying to dodge Melania's attacks at first in Elden Ring. But some of these moves, you might notice when it flies up, like this one, is parryable. And I am able to parry it at the last moment. What's really good about JIYAN's sword there is he kind of throws it out and it lingers for a long period of time, making it really easy to parry. The problem though is this boss has another bug where sometimes instead of landing on the ground, it'll land slightly elevated above the ground, like right here. And when it does that, sometimes if you try and use that parry, it'll actually go over the parry and will just hit you, which is kind of ridiculous. And sometimes if it stays in that elevated point as well, it'll just stay there for like most of the fight and never actually land fully on the ground. And if it does that, then some of your attacks will just be missing because they don't actually hit high enough up. So yeah, I had a lot of runs lost to either taking damage from a successfully parried attack. You'll notice right there, I kind of waited after I parried it so that I wouldn't just run into its head and instantly die from the damage, from the bug. So if you ignore all the bugs and you ignore the possible camera issues, I would say that this boss is actually incredibly well made and really, really fun. I do think that they should probably increase the timer for some of this stuff. I think it's a little unfair that even if you're perfectly able to dodge everything and do everything correctly, that you can lose just because you run out of time. I really hope that they can maybe change something like that on release. But this pattern of attacks that it does right here is a real pain. You have to be really careful, and it's also such a constant string of attacks that sometimes it'll just do this combo into another of this combo, into another of this combo, and if it keeps doing that, you'll waste so much time that you won't be able to kill the boss in time. So luckily, in this run, it was not just spamming that string of attacks, so I actually have enough windows to attack. That ability kind of wastes a lot of time, but you do get a little bit of damage at the very end. You really have to just find the window to attack with each of its skills, and you might have to be a little bit greedy sometimes and learn how greedy you can really be. But right there, I get that final nice parry to be able to get another DPS window in, and we're at the very end of the boss. 301 health in a dream, we win! Thanks a bunch for watching, and I hope to see you next time.